Good.
Amen.
Specifically for you, Larry, in the light of the problem of discrimination in access to health care in the United States, will Amnesty International USA comment on specific questions that are coming up in the current healthcare debate?
Yes, we not only will, we have, and we will continue to do so. Our concern is not on the particulars of, you know, this proposal or that proposal. We're not probably going to weigh in on every aspect of it, but we are trying to make the basic point that which I think hasn't been made, unfortunately, well enough. I think that's one of the reasons we're having such a hard time doing something that every other developed nation in the world has long ago done, is because we have not taken the step that they all have taken, which is to recognize that health care is a right. Now, I know that in the debate, in the moment of the debate, when President Obama was asked this question directly, he had the good sense to say, yes, it's not a privilege, it's not a responsibility, it is a right. But unfortunately, those words have seldom been heard ever since. So I think it's up for us as the American people who have these rights, whose rights are being affected by it, to make that demand that the healthcare system in the United States, at the way it's now set up, denies people their basic human right to have access to quality health care, and people die because of that. People suffer from that who don't have to. That's what's at stake. It's human life. It's not some trivial thing about, you know, getting a little better of this or a little better of that. It's as basic as that. So we have been commenting on that. We have issued a set of principles that we think are essential for any health care bill, and we are in Washington trying and mobilizing people around the country to write to their representatives and say, we demand that these basic principles, quality, everyone having access to health care, affordability, everybody being able to afford decent health care, and quality, that those principles have to be reflected in whatever legislation is passed by the United States. And we think the key to getting that moving to that reality will again be the mobilization of people around the country demanding health care as a fundamental human right.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's a quite specific question. This is clearly from somebody who works quite closely in these areas, maybe somebody who's taking a class in international relations. What impact would take place if the U.S. ratified the Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights? And is Amnesty involved in the movement toward that ratification?
Well, Amnesty International, as part of its Demand Dignity campaign, has two goals. One is to get China to ratify the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the other is to get the United States to ratify the Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Because as we go ahead, you know, into the future, and it's going to be a very tough future, one needs to have a unified vision of human rights. If we have these two big global leaders and they can't even share a common vision of human rights, then we are in trouble. But as Larry said, it will require a huge amount of mobilization in this country to get the United States to recognize the existence of economic, social and cultural rights, and it's going to have a huge impact. You know, what the United States does, the world watches, and the world copies. The US is a global leader. The world constantly looks to the United States for leadership. And just as bad habits are copied, and we've seen that copied in recent times, I think good practice will also be copied. So let's not underestimate the export value of what the US does. So if this country recognizes healthcare as a right, it's going to encourage many others to do the same. Poorer countries, countries that may need help and assistance to make those rights real, but they will do that, and that means that it's no longer just a privilege, it's no longer a commodity for the market, it's actually a right, it empowers people, it allows them to hold their governments accountable, it provides them with a remedy. So it's going to change the whole debate on poverty.
Well, I would just add to that what I said earlier. If the United States had ratified the covenant, but more importantly, if it had taken it seriously, because we all know that you can ratify an international agreement. We have ratified lots of things and yet not implemented it. So the key for us is not just that the United States ratify, the covenant, but that it actually implement that covenant, that it take human rights and it applies it to the streets of San Francisco, where you walk down the street and you see homeless person after homeless person after homeless person, and you begin, if you've been here for a while, to just accept that, well, that's just the way it is. It's not the way it is. That's a violation of human rights right before your eyes, as if you were walking down the street and you saw somebody being tortured, or you saw somebody being carted away by the police for their beliefs. That's the same kind of human rights violation that you're seeing every day when you walk on the streets of San Francisco. So we have to begin to make people see that and to open their eyes to that. And when we do that, begin to insist that their government use human rights in looking at these problems. If there was that kind of commitment, the announcement that took place just a little while ago that poverty rates had now gone up to an 11-year high would have been greeted by a state of national emergency. How is this possible? How can we have 47 million people who are living in poverty in the richest country on the face of the earth? And yet, I didn't hear anything about it, you know. I had to look for this statistic. You have the swine flu, which is a very serious problem. You have a national emergency, a state of emergency. President Obama declared a state of emergency because you know, there's a danger that hundreds of people will be affected by the swine flu, or maybe thousands of people. But there are 47 million people who are affected by something which is far worse, which is called poverty, and yet there's no state of emergency. So that's really what I think the fight over ratification of the covenant is about.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of the streets of San Francisco, as you may know, a concern among a number of groups here at USF is modern-day slavery, human trafficking, and so this question comes, how does Amnesty International imagine this campaign on poverty addressing issues of child soldiers, of chattel slavery, of human trafficking, of debt peonage and bondage, again, both on the streets of San Francisco, as the Not for Sale campaign here at USF has pointed out, and internationally?